You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Kristin Dufrene. Kristin is a certified professional APMP Fellow, has 26 years of experience in federal sector business development, including capture and proposal management. Kristin has been a member of APMP since 1995 and served as the 2017 chair of the International Board of Directors. She's led many joint industry federal initiatives, including the Procurement Improvement Committee, the Federal Procurement Community, and the Government Industry Acquisition Task Force. Those are all mouthfuls. Kristin is currently Strategic Capture Executive Director for CACI and holds a bachelor's degree in journalism from LSU. Welcome, Kristin, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Kristin, we're going to start kind of way back in the beginning and understand where you are from, where you grew up, and where you got your education.
Well, I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go Tigers. I went to LSU's laboratory school for middle school and high school, and the teachers there were university professors and grad students. We actually got some college credit in high school for going there, so it was very small and very hands-on learning. For example, for English Lit, we performed it. I remember that I was the wife of Bath in Canterbury Tales. And then in biology, instead of just dissecting frogs, we had a whole session where we hunted and learned taxidermy. Mine was a squirrel, but to be honest, I had a friend do the hunting for me.
Oh my goodness, that sounds amazing.
And a girl raised.
So you went to high school in this very hands-on, exciting place, and then you went on to LSU to get your bachelor's degree in journalism?
That's right. LSU has the Manship School of Journalism, and they have a four-pronged approach to any journalism degree. So you have to, when you major in journalism, you have to take advertising, public relations, news editorial, and broadcast journalism.
Oh, very cool. So when you went to school, were you thinking you wanted to be a journalist?
When I went to school, I was thinking that I could probably get a job if I could read and write really well, and it didn't have any math, so that's how I picked my major.
I had a very similar strategy for college as well. So was your first job in the proposal industry?
No, my very first job was kind of in the proposal industry. Ironically, I worked at the Louisiana Office of Procurement. My father got me a summer job there when I was only 15, and I worked in the purchasing department. We purchased things like, robes for the mental facility or reflective vests for highway workers. Nothing really complicated like services and proposals. But we used to do a thing called public bidding, and companies would send in their bids, and on Fridays I got to stand in the lobby of the government building and read them out loud, and by the end of the day we had all the contracts signed for the purchases. But my first job out of college was actually property management. I managed a couple of strip malls.
Oh, interesting. So what got you into the world of proposals then?
Well, just like everybody else that I know personally, it was kind of an accident. I was working on a contract. I was writing the appendices for the original RCAS requirements document, and my company lost their recompete. We didn't even know it was up for recompete, but we all got laid off and let go on the same day, and then they kind of called me back and said, hey, you write really well. We're looking for people to work on this proposal. And I never looked back, and I never got laid off again.
Yeah, there's definitely job security in this industry, right?
Absolutely.
So do you have a most memorable proposal or capture effort?
I feel like you never forget your first one, right? Mine was Dufrene. It was the big telecommunications network for the Department of State. And back then, proposals didn't have page limits, and they wanted 30 copies of 40 volumes. And I remember delivering it in a rented U-Haul. I was working for a mid-sized telecommunications company at the time, and we were up against the really big players in the space. So we knew it was a long shot, but we were all in it, to win it. So to make a long story very short, we did win, but then the contract ended up yanked because an intelligence agency took over the worldwide telecommunications. So they canceled the contract before we even got started. It's still a David and Goliath story, and I have very fond memories of working in sync with a large team, and it's something I'll never forget.
Wow. I joined the proposal world after the times of U-Haul deliveries, so it still amazes me hearing those stories, but that's definitely a memorable one that I would never forget if I had participated in it.
Exactly.
Are there 3 things that not many people know about you?
I don't know. I'm pretty open book. I think if I had to pick 3 things, number 1 would be I don't have any hidden talents like singing or playing an instrument. Number 2, I don't have any unique hobbies. I spend my personal time volunteering, drinking wine, and lounging around with my dog. I guess I can give you a story that I've used for this question before for my third one. When I was in college, I was the eye in the sky traffic reporter for multiple local radio stations. And the one thing that people might not know is that I was actually sitting at the police headquarters in front of an incident map, and the radio stations just played helicopter sound effects in the background during my reports.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, you never think about those things, right?
Brown.
I'm sorry?
The eye in the sky was just really sitting on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, very cool.
When was this, Kristin? How long ago was this?
It was when I was in college, and I will leave the year to be undisclosed.
Yes. At what point, Kristin, did you join APMP? It was like mid-1990s, is that right?
Yeah, 1995 was when I first joined APMP. And back then it was maybe 100 members. Wow. And we were mostly U.S. federal contractors. It was sort of before we had a B2B community, and we hadn't expanded internationally yet. So our conferences were very small, in small venues, and everyone seemed to know everyone.
So what triggered you to enter the APMP, Kristin?
I found out about it through my former boss, and she allowed me to go, and I went and I met some friends, and once you attend your first conference, you're pretty much hooked that you have a community of people that go through the same things you go through, understand what just understand you. It's sort of the community of your people, and so I never had a lapse in my membership from that moment on.
I think looking, I know you told me that you avoided Max, but this will be your 25th year, Kristin, with the APMP Silver Jubilee.
Well, yeah, that's a long time, isn't it?
100%. So did you manage to attend all the conference, Kristin, from all the way from 1995 to 2020? I mean, which is the new one that's coming up close to?
Yeah, I think I've maybe missed 2 or 3 over the years. I remember I had every now and then you have a proposal effort and you end up not being able to go, but you can count them on one hand that I haven't been. I've been to at least 20 something.
Wow, that's amazing, Kristin. And gradually from being a member, you also volunteered all the way up to being to even lead APMP International as a COO, chair and executive member. Kristin, how did that journey happen? If you can share some of your experience, that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So it's a good follow-on, actually, to what APMP was like when I joined, because I was sort of old school, right? We started out with it being a U.S.-based federal contractor community. And so when I decided to run for the COO position, well, that's vice chair now, I had to make a very intentional decision. And quite frankly, I thought my time had passed because I was from the old model, and I wanted to make sure that the organization that I cared about and loved kept moving forward. I wanted to make sure that I would be able to embrace the B2B community and our expansion internationally. But it was during my time as either COO or chair or immediate past chair that we made decisions about our UK chapter affiliation and decided to invest in the India chapter. And we also invested in certifications to turn our certification materials into Japanese for our Japan chapter. And we also grew our B2B memberships by leaps and bounds. Another thing that was a real driving force for me was because I got into the industry as accident. I wanted to have young people understand that they can make career intentions and not just get into the business because they stumbled into it. So that's when we started our 40 Under 40 program as well.
Wow, these are amazing milestones, Kristin. I mean, like, launching India, launching Japan, UK affiliation. I mean, like, these are, brilliant milestones. You mentioned that you also do some volunteering for other charities as well, Kristin. How did you balance your time around all three of your passions?
Well, it's really hard because I want to do so much, and I realize my time and my talents are limited. So you have to learn to really put your passion where it goes. I'm very involved in the wintertime at the hypothermia clinic in my local community where we serve the homeless to keep them warm and healthy. And then I personally have lupus, and I serve the lupus community through charitable events and being on their board of directors. And I enjoy helping my local community and people like me.
You also were involved on the many industry federal initiatives, Kristin. Was that because you originally started when you were very young on running the procurement? How did that?
Yes, but ever since I started working proposals, I've been fascinated at how the customer on the other end really evaluates them. I wanted to validate what I was taught and, quite frankly, what I teach about customer evaluations. But what I ended up understanding is that it's really an education for both sides. I think our industry members have shocked our government counterparts as much as they shock us. So I remember getting a call several years back from a government acquisition person at an Air Force base, and he asked me if he could give me a hypothetical scenario and if I would let him know what my company would do about a scenario like that and about how much it would cost us. So I gave him the unfiltered view of getting a bid like his scenario approved through our corporate approval process and the number of people that would be working it. And I gave him a rough estimate of our bid and proposal costs. And at the end, he was just shocked. And he said, "Thank you very much. I think you stopped us from doing something incredibly stupid." So the reason why I get involved in these two-way communications from an industry standpoint is because we can both learn. I want to learn everything I can to do my job better, but I also want to educate the other side so that they know what they could do to help us get them a better product.
100%. 100%, Kristin. Do you have any plans to travel to UK, Kristin? We might need your help in drafting the post-Brexit procurement principles.
That's
yes, Kristin. I think there are some interesting names, Kristin. I think this Procurement Improvement Committee, Kristin, what's that about?
So we started a committee trying to figure out how government officials can improve the way that they procure goods and services. And we did a couple of studies, and we did a survey, and all of that is out on the APMP website. And then we decided that it should be more ad hoc, and we have a hotline now for if a company or if a person finds an issue in an RFP and they don't want to bring it forward themselves, the APMP organization can bring it forward as an issue to benefit the entire APMP community. So it's a way that, again, we act as a organization, an association to benefit our members. So on the website there is a hotline number, and always willing if you want to reach out to myself or other procurement integrity committee members to help you talk through different issues that people are having with either draft or final RFPs.
Wow, that's a very interesting one, Kristin, because even today morning I received a call from our UK chapter checking about how to work with the buyers directly. But this is going to be really useful for them. I'll share this information. I'm sure they would know, but just in case, I'll also remind them about it. So the Federal Procurement Community and the Government Industry Acquisition Task Force, are they similar in the same lines, Kristin?
So the federal government community is all of the APMP members, and we have, mailing lists and events for that, just like there is a B2B community. The Government Industry Task Force was actually an actual chartered task force with a mission, and we have a 50-page final report out on apmp.org where we outlined everything in the industry bid process and then everything in the government procurement process. And we showed touch points where they map. And in the U.S., we have federal acquisition regulations that we call the FAR. And we wanted to make sure that the FAR, the acquisition regulations, allowed for as much communication back and forth between the government and industry as possible. And we realized that the FAR isn't the one that is not allowing it. The FAR is very open to two-way communication. And so then it became, from that report, we turned it into an education experience where we wanted to go through and, like I said, really talk to the government and have the government understand that they get better procurements from industry when there's two-way communication. So it's to foster that.
That brings me to your presentation, Kristin. You have presented so many times, Kristin, and I've also listened to you a few times at the BitCon as well. But what was your first presentation, Kristin, and where was it?
My first presentation was called Re-Engineering Your Proposal Department to Support Opportunity Marketing, and that was at the Albuquerque conference in 2001. I presented it with Ricky Henschel, and I remember getting, really good survey feedback. But one engineer attending the conference wrote, well, because back then we didn't have online surveys, we did hard copy, and he wrote 2 pages on how if we're going into marketing, we can't use the term re-engineering if we aren't really engineering anything. And he wrote a whole dissertation about using the wrong word in our title.
People are people. Kristin. I'm glad that you got an interesting memory around it. But from then on, Kristin, is there any other memorable presentation that you have?
Well, I guess considering that I remember that comment about the re-engineering, I think I would say my presentation from New Orleans in 2006, it was called Jambalaya Crawfish Pie Mumbo Jumbo. And it was a whole presentation on not using trendy words without context, knowing your audience, and understanding customer intentions. So I had learned my lesson, and I was wrote a whole presentation on not using trendy words.
But the title is amazing, Kristin. Is it Mumbo Jumbo, Kristin? What's that?
Jambalaya, because it was in New Orleans, it had a Cajun theme. So I said, I named it Jambalaya Crawfish Pie Mumbo Jumbo.
From then on, Kristin, we spoke to Ali Peskin recently as well, Kristin. I'm sure you did a few presentations jointly with her as well.
Yeah.
Any kind of memories with not just with Ali, but few of your colleagues, Kristin? Anybody you want to name?
Well, I met Ali in 2002, I think. So we worked so well together, and her attention to detail just is shocking, and I trust her to do her part immediately. So we've worked with each other quite a few times over the course of the last 18 years, but we're also friends and co-presenters. I just love bouncing things off of her for clarity. She's a pretty wise woman.
Yes, Kristin.
I have a lot of APMP colleagues that I think very highly of, and that's sort of the great thing about APMP. You know, your friendships develop over the years, and you always have a friend to pick up the phone and bounce an idea off of. I do that with several people.
Would you like to name a few of your good friends, Kristin? Maybe they will be listening at some point.
Well, David Sotolongo, I have presented with and worked with over the course of the past decade. Elaine Coyard, I've reached out to her on a personal level, you know, with a issue I was having at work, you know, as a sort of a peer confidant. There's just so many. Ashley Kays, I reach out to her and ask her opinion a lot too.
For me, I reach out to Tony Birch Howard, not all the time.
Yeah.
Those people, but that's more or less on the mentoring level. But on the friends level, yeah, at the moment, I have Ashley with me. So that's great.
You know, everybody sort of asks me about who were my mentors, and I have some people that I would consider mentors, but I was never in a formal mentor-protege relationship. But I have what I would call more of a board of supervisors. You know, I've got a circle of friends and colleagues and people I trust and admire, and they all have their unique piece. And so, you know, if I'm having an issue with an employee, I'll call a different person than if I'm having an issue with a procurement. I have, you know, if I'm having something with a company environment, I'll reach out to somebody different. And so I think that it's good to have a wide spectrum of colleagues that you feel comfortable about reaching out to.
All right, Kristin. So we've drilled you pretty hard about your career. I'm going to lighten some things up with our surprise rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So those of us that know you have this thing called Kristin time. So we lovingly know that sometimes you're prone to being a little bit late. So we were wondering, what are your top 3 reasons that you're typically late?
It's Kristin time, and that is really the only legitimate excuse I have. I mean, I may blame it on traffic, I may blame it on a phone call, I may blame it on something else, but in general, I'm just a lousy judge of time. I don't like to be too early. I don't shoot to be late, but I think Kristin time is generally, and you can vouch for me, Ashley, I think Kristin time is usually 5 to 7 minutes late.
Yeah, I think I have a Kristen time of my own as well. And I'm going to say it's because I've learned so much from you.
But you did well on this one, Kristin. You were here like 3 minutes early. I'm so
on it.
What is something that you've tried that you'll never, ever try again?
Monkfish.
Okay. Just not a fan of
I
the
tried
flavor?
it. Huh?
No, I'm not really familiar with it. So just is it a weird flavor or texture or all of the above?
Texture. It looks a little like a slug. It has 3 hearts.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever be that brave, Kristin. Okay, so would you rather have unlimited sushi or unlimited tacos for life?
Sushi.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I might have switched it with Indian, but
Yeah.
decided to go tacos. What's a common thing that you think about when you're alone?
I'm trying to get better at this, but I tend to revisit what I say. Like the next time I'm alone, I'm going to say, is it monkfish or is it something else? Because I made it very clear on the call and now I'm questioning myself. So I have a tendency to question myself when I'm alone.
Okay. What is the most difficult challenge you've faced so far?
Difficult challenge. I think from a career perspective, I think we all face different challenges and they have different stress levels. But from a career perspective, when you are working a merge with 2 companies, that is very, very difficult because you have 2 cultures coming together, and you may have a preference, but you don't want to squelch somebody else's culture. So you have to work very hard to make sure that you have an open mind. And it's very stressful, and it's a unique challenge in this day and age with a lot of companies coming together. And that's something that I think that, I've had a couple of experiences with, and if it was my last one that I've already been through, then I'm happy about that.
Yeah, definitely. That can be very challenging, especially when the cultures are on very different sides of the spectrum, right? I know you've definitely dealt with that.
Yeah, that's really, it's challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
That's easy. I've done it. I have a keyboard that goes on my iPhone, and it turns it into a BlackBerry, and it's called Typo, and it was invented by Ryan Seacrest, and then BlackBerry sued the company, and they had a cease and desist order, and I found out that they were being sued by BlackBerry, and I bought 10 of them so that I would never run out. What I didn't anticipate is for the iPhone to keep changing its size. So I am kind of stuck with an iPhone 6 and can probably never and still have my keyboard.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully you can keep that iPhone 6 living, or at least find some older versions that you can refresh with. Have you ever cried at a movie?
Oh, all the time. I cry at commercials.
Me too. I can definitely relate to that. All right, last one. If you could learn any language fluently, what would it be?
So I think I would want Croatian. I think I want to speak Croatian. My mother's family is Croatian, And when my grandparents were getting older, they lost a lot of their English words and they spoke a lot of Croatian. And I picked up some words. And I had the opportunity to go to Croatia last year, and I understood the gist of people's conversations. But if I could speak it fluently, I think that would make me happy.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool.
I think that kind of brings us to the gratitude part. I know, you had Rocky, and now you also have Dyson with you. So how much impact or influence those two dogs have been part of your life, Kristin?
Yeah, I'm a crazy dog lady, and I adopt, and the dogs that I've adopted have come from not so great circumstances, and so I tend to spoil them rotten. Rocky, the rescue dog I had before Dyson, he was a chained outside dog and no shelter in the rain, sleet, snow. And when the shelter came and picked him up, they just gave it to him. They said, yeah, we didn't want him anyway. And he spent 6 years in the shelter because, he was afraid and nobody could get near him because he had to protect himself. And he had a vicious look and a growl because he was chained, and he had to scare without knowing full well he couldn't hurt anybody because he was chained. So he scared away all the adopters. And for some reason, I went there, and he leaned up against me and purred like a cat. And so I adopted him, and he ended up being a wonderful pet. And I think he was just waiting for me to come and get him. And then the dog that I have now is Dyson because he's named after a vacuum cleaner. He's got a lot of hound in him, and his nose is always on the ground. And I just adore him, and he's very mischievous and gets away with a lot. My dogs are my children now that my son has grown and moved and has his own life.
Yes, Kristin. If you could ask your late pet dog Rocky 3 questions, Kristin, what would those questions be?
Oh, I don't know. I want to make sure that he felt safe and loved with me, and that he understood that people aren't bad, and that I would make sure that he had a good life.
Oh. Looking back at the other humans, Kristin, who are the people who are most influential in your life and career, Kristin?
I've been so lucky to hit the boss jackpot in my career. We talked about mentors and a circle of colleagues to always have around you. But I have to say I've been really lucky in the boss department. And the first boss I had in this business was Ricky Henschel. And she got me into this crazy business, taught me how to be well-rounded, trusted me to build my own responsibilities, and made me realize that I can have a career and not just a job. And then the second fantastic boss I had was Eric Gregory, and yes, the legendary Eric Gregory, who taught me just about everything else, especially how to make a workplace fun and productive at the same time.
Wow, unbelievable bosses, Kristin. And regarding life, Kristin, personal life?
I had great parents. I lost my dad 26 years ago now, but he was such a strong man, well-loved. He was an FBI agent, and so he was a tough guy in his job, and an enforcer. But he had a big heart, And there would be times when he would bring a homeless man home to dinner, and my mother couldn't believe that she was cooking for him when we didn't know these people. But he didn't want to see anybody suffering. But he was a law enforcer, so he was very. It gave me a perspective that you don't have to be labeled with just one thing. And he was always open and just well-rounded. And so I think, I love my mother. She's still around, but my father really showed me the many facets that one person can have.
And just you just said now, Kristin, I mean, like that charity and the giving that you're giving now, the homeless one, was it influenced because what you saw your father did 26 years ago, Kristin, or even long ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, I want to help where I can help. And we've had a mild winter this year, but I've been doing this for the past 5 years. And times we don't have mild winters, and there are people without shelter. And so the hypothermia clinic here in Reston is really an important place for me because it keeps people not only warm, but it also helps keep them healthy, which is obviously a problem when you're on the streets.
I'm 100% sure, Kristin, whenever you do that, I'm sure your father, looking into you, will be smiling at you for all the deeds that you're doing now. Is there anything in particular that you want to share about your father now, Kristin? Anything?
About who? My father?
About your father. I mean, like if you want to thank, sorry, or anything in particular to him?
No, I think... no, I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristin. Who from your past, Kristin, do you really wish you'd stayed in contact with?
I think it's kind of funny because with social media, there are so many people. If you would have asked me this question, even 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I would say, yeah, I wonder what happened to this person. And I really wish I would have followed up with that person. But with social media, it gives you sort of a false sense that you are in contact, even if you haven't spoken in several years. I mean, I have several people that we do meet face to face. And I do have personal interaction with, and I make a intentional effort to do that. Every other month, I meet a group of women that were vice presidents at a company that I worked with, and we meet for dinner every 2 or 3 months, and we make sure to make it a priority on our calendar because we want to maintain those relationships.
Wow, Kristin, I think the points that you mentioned there, that it gives us a false sense of connection, is 100% true, Kristin. I think you might have like 1,000 Facebook friends and maybe 2,000 or 8,000 LinkedIn connection, but you always keep in touch with the same people that you always keep in touch.
All right, Kristin. So we've got to hear a little bit about your career and all the amazing things that you've accomplished over the years. Is there one thing that you wish you had known when you began your career?
Yeah, that it isn't mandatory to pull all-nighters and eat pizza. That's sort of an old wives' tale about proposal work. Sticking to schedules and deadlines is a game changer, right?
Absolutely. And I think especially with great leaders who are kind of pushing that and really enforcing the fact that you can have a schedule and you can stick to it. And, just like you said, you don't have to pull those all-nighters. We've really come a long way. I
think so. And that, I wish I would have known that instead of thinking that it was mandatory back in the my earlier days of my career.
Yeah, definitely. I think also, though, there may be things that help us today that were less available earlier, right, in terms of technologies and things that speed up the process a little bit. Also, we're not delivering big U-Haul trucks full of proposals.
That's true. That is.
What is the best piece of advice you've received, and from whom?
My friend CACI told me that, let's see, how did she say it? She said, saying no is okay because it just means that you want the person asking to get the best person with the right time commitment to do the job right. So I used to volunteer for anything that anyone asked of me. You know, I was PTA, yes. Cub Scouts, yes. Sunday school, yes. So now I just say yes to the things that I know that I could be good at and that I have the time for. Because if you say yes and you don't put in the time required to do a good job, then you're not helping anyone. So now that I just say yes to the things that I can be good at and have the time for, I'm kind of killing it. Yeah, and I used to not be killing it.
Well, every time that I've known you, you've definitely been killing it. So you must have received this advice pretty early. But it's definitely great perspective. And I think a lot of us can learn from that. And in order to commit ourselves to the best potential and not overcommit, keeping that, if I have enough time to do it, yes. If not, it's okay to say no. It's a great lesson.
Okay, it's really, you're doing them a favor by saying no, because then they can get somebody that will be able to do it better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just need to keep that in mind and not feel guilty to say no.
Right.
So Kristin, you have done so much. You've been director of large teams. You've been down in the weeds on the proposal development, managing large efforts. Now you're in kind of a capture role. What's next for you?
I am really enjoying being a practitioner in the capture efforts now. Like I said, you know, I find it stressful to go through mergers and have big jobs with big responsibilities. And I'm not saying that my responsibilities are any lesser, being in charge of a large capture effort, but I'm really honing my skills again so that I don't lose them. And I don't know what's next for me. I'll see everybody in Nashville, I guess. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now, and I love rolling up my sleeves and being responsible for what I can control, right?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds really exciting, and being able to kind of hone some skills in that area of capture and really feel the tangible effects of what you're doing must be a nice shift from some other recent roles.
Yeah, it's different, and I'm enjoying it. So I'll stick here for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kristin, is there any part of your life or career that we didn't touch, Kristin, that you would like to share?
I don't know. You guys are pretty thorough. No. I had to think in my dog's brain. I had to between. No, I really. I think what you guys are doing, talking to people and getting different perspectives, is something that many people would value, or at least should value. Like I said, what I valued in my father was the many facets to the one man. And I think getting a personal understanding of people and a professional understanding of people and how they drive each other is important. So I want to thank you both for doing this series. It's cool.
Thanks, Kristin.
a lot to us. Yes, Kristin. So thank you so much, Kristin, for your time. It's been a real privilege to have you with us at Scribble Talk. We wish you all the good health, Kristin, and all the happiness. Please do continue to inspire the bid and proposal community and every single person around you, Kristin.
Thank you so much.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundaram,
signing off.